How's it going, everyone? There's another video here for us all. We're going to be starting a new phase for Phase 4, Week 1 for our Evo Hitting Academy. What this week talks about, which is coincidentally something that ties along with what we're going to be doing with some groups of hitters starting this weekend, managing velocity. This is a wildly used thing under a team practice setting. A lot of I've seen it a lot also just in individual sessions, whether it be from lessons or within groups or something like that. The I like how this is titled "Managing Velocity" versus "Practicing Velocity" because I guess I'll just start with my opinion. The way that velocity is practiced nowadays, there's a lot of things that are missing that don't make it as good. I think managing velocity is a better way because it suggests and leaning towards something that you need to get used to. You need to give yourself practice and reps. And before we start going into the overview and purpose here and a few other videos that I have, I think it's just important to mention an analogy that can help suggest, to help yourself manage velocity, you have to make sure that your moves are well enough, they're efficient enough to handle it. If you have a poorly running car and you rev the engine to try to go fast, it's just going to break down at some point, if not a little faster. But if you work on improving the car itself so that it can handle, it can maintain, it can manage those demands, it can put you in a little bit of a position to success. So it kind of goes in towards a little bit of that theme where you're working on efficient moves can clean up your ability to create timing, and sometimes having a better understanding on how you create timing can actually lead towards you putting on some cleaner moves. So it can kind of interact a little bit, and I think it's just important if you're deciding if you feel like you're ready to manage velocity in your batting practice. If that's something that you like to do, you don't have to, but there's just some important things to inform yourself with so that you're not going down some pretty bad training methods, because there's a lot of things where you can easily practice velocity, but how you do it is important. I'm just going to bring to one attention here this sentence where it talks about how high velocity reduces your time to hit the ball well, which, yes, that's certainly the case, but the biggest part is delivering the bat and the ball efficiently to it. Not all velocity is created equal, not just with the pitch itself that's coming in, but also with the velocity that you create, the force that you generate and create. It can have an impact on your ability to put on your best swing. So there's a couple different ways that I'm going to go about this, but I'm going to try to keep it all nice and organized for you. Yeah, if you're getting to a part where you're on a machine, or if you're asking coach to kind of bring it a little bit harder, maybe bring an extra bag of ice to help them out at the end of it. That's what we're going to be doing with our hitting groups. That's what we're getting into. We're going to start introducing the machine, and we're going to start spoon feeding a little bit of velo, because I do believe that if you can time up a machine, you have a pretty good you'll have a pretty good idea of timing up the arm, because the moves that you need to put on to handle the machine are the same demands for handling an arm. But again, just going back, if you're not moving in an efficient manner, then you're getting yourself cooked, and you could be going in for a world of hurt, a lot of swing and misses within your practice, and just further frustration. And whether you're in tee work or you're going all the way through flips and then the firm batting practice, just to point out the points of emphasis under the activity, it really is controlling your moves. Controlling your moves and staying loose gives yourself the best chance to become accurate, to be accurate with the barrel, which is something that is definitely needed when you're facing against velo, because if you're facing against velo, you're more likely going to it's going to be much more obvious if you are missing over the ball or if you are missing under the ball. In order to make that adjustment, you need to have control of your barrel in order to be accurate. Um, the little bottle cap game, Vitila, over in the Latino countries. That's a little thing that goes really fast. There's a big emphasis why a lot of hitting cultures down there, they emphasize getting on top of the ball a little bit more, because at the velocity of that object coming in, and which is similar to the velocity of the pitch of a baseball coming in, it's at less steep of an angle. So you kind of need to be a little more direct. Therefore, you need to be a little more efficient within your moves. Here's just another example that I feel like might explain that a little bit. I'll start on this middle slide, and then I'll go back here. So I got in this slide here a kid who is not Alfonso Soriano, and then these next two videos right here, I'll move my head out of the way, is Alfonso Soriano. So this player, just giving you a little bit of context, and the one swing, this one moment in time with the blast motion sensor can suggest this. I don't use a blast motion sensor anymore, but I used it at this time. This player was north of 65 for bat speed and right anywhere around 70s for their ability to hit the ball hard consecutively. Somewhere around 70 exit velo, 71, 79. Who cares? It was in the 70s. Just wasn't very good. The gap wasn't very strong there. And it was actually from what this player was doing, which was not the cleanest of moves. We needed to slow things down a little bit. We needed to slow his body down, and that just kind of happened to be the bat speed as well. And even though his bat speed dropped down to 57 miles an hour, as you see in the example, something around there, his exit velo numbers, his ability to hit the ball harder, was a little bit more consistent. His average was somewhere right around the low 80s to mid 80s. He topped out at 87 one time, and it was awesome. It was out of nowhere. It wasn't anything that he thought he could do, just under a short period of time of about a month. So how you practice it under that way, having control of your moves, is one way of doing it. I thought maybe showing this little side-by-side of Alfonso Soriano can kind of support that too, whether it be with a machine or with an arm. This example here has an arm. It makes it just a good point of how you're practicing it. This is Alfonso Soriano from his, I think he was a rookie or right before he was a rookie. This was like a Futures All-Star game back in '99. And then this was about, 6 years later with him playing in the Bronx for New York. A big example here just in regards to how moves change, but the forward move is also pretty similar. And when it comes to how you're practicing your velocity, how you get to it, a nice control move forward in the foot strike, really getting yourself to start your move forward or being prepared, having that intent to go and swing the bat. By the time the ball is out of the pitcher's hand is a pretty important key to have. Alfonso was a lot less moves back in '99, and when the arm was coming, he was having his body going forward and his foot down. Alfonso Soriano had a little bit bigger moves, which is something maybe a little common that'll happen when you get a little older. You have to get things going maybe a little bit sooner. But the demands for actually being on time both need to be efficient. And yes, these are both home runs. So when it comes to practicing and managing velocity, what you're looking at could be a lot more important than what you're practicing, because a big pitfall when it comes to practicing velocity, which, without knowledge of things like these, you're going to have a tough time managing it, is just understanding what exactly is the environment that you're practicing under. So this little formula is something that was given to me from Ochart over at Driveline. He was cool enough to respond back to me when I just sent him an Instagram message. It was because I was having a terrible time trying to find where the formula was in the Driveline website. I think it was in one of their blogs that had this formula where there is a way that you can calculate what a perceived velo is, what you could be practicing for like a simulated type of way of practicing velocity in the cages. And this is all supported. This is all technically factual, where if you take 60 feet 6 inches, you take off 5 feet, because that's supposed to simulate when the ball is reaching out of the pitcher's hand, which is about like a 5-foot stride. You divide that by the distance that you're practicing. So I chose 30 feet because that's kind of typically the distance for most cages, maybe even a little bit longer. And 60 seems pretty soft. Doesn't really seem like it's coming in that fast. Well, if you apply the numbers within this formula, it's really a 110 mile an hour perceived velocity. You're not practicing hitting the ball 110 miles an hour. It's still 60 miles an hour. So the speed at which the ball is coming into the hitting zone is pretty different because it's still 60. But you're practicing under a simulation that gives you a reaction time similar to something of 110 miles an hour. I just picked this example because, I don't know, maybe I've seen it, maybe I've done it. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I know I have. And I thought it would help because, after all, if you're practicing something that's way more difficult, when you get lesser velo, it'll be easy, right? Well, if it did, then I wouldn't be telling you otherwise. I've practiced this before, and it really just kind of goes back to putting on those clean moves, putting on, finding your ranges and finding out which one that works for you to get on plane or to get on top or to extend through the baseball to complete your swing in the best athletic way that you can. Some of you may have only have so much control over this because you're not a coach, you're a player, and coach may be doing these type of things anyway. Here's actually just a little suggestion that I add in with practice to get yourself a little more familiar towards some velocities that you're not too familiar with, and you need a little bit of time to make adjustment. And if you don't hit well off the machine anyway, it can be viewed as like okay in some ways. There's groups that practice front flips and some overhand BP, and they turn out just fine. But I also, at the same time, I agree that if your best way of managing velocity is just getting used to it, and you should probably be exposed to it and finding a way to hit under that high stress environment can add to your confidence factor, which can be just as impactful as the clean moves themselves. It's a video here that's from a guy named Nate Headley. I don't know him. I'm just showing you something from Instagram, but I recorded it and I'm sharing it here because I've done it before, and I think it's just a great little segue to get yourselves involved here with practicing velo. I totally know that if I'm recording this right now, there's a good chance you just may not play the subtitles here. So yeah, the subtitles helped if you couldn't hear that, but the message was still good. I mean, just a couple points that Nate here just mentions as he's talking to some hitters. The What he means by anchored position, I also use it as a term of like a wide no stride type of stance, where it calls for the upper half to go ahead and just make the moves, makes the body a little more calm, gets the eyes working with the barrel a little bit easier, and once you get your bearings under that setting, then it makes you a little more comfortable to putting on that forward move at the right time against the machine. I mean, heck, we can all relate to swinging and missing over and over and over and over again, and there's no application to creating the solution like he uses to describe the definition for insanity. We all know that. We all see that. And I've used even that same little drill that Nate right there was talking about in the anchored position. Just as a great way to kind of segue and get yourself familiar with it. It serves as a good warm-up round. It serves as just an easy way to help manage that velocity and get you a little more aware, a little more keen of handling that more high stress environment. So that's just one way that I found that helps. Given that little video with Alfonso Soriano, just showing controlling on when to make that forward move goes in with it, and really just having overall control of yourself. Sometimes slowing down is actually the best way. Letting the ball do the power. I know if there's like an Instagram filter that's showing me age and sound old as I make that, but I'm only saying it because it's true. The trying to match intensity with intensity causes you to muscle up, and when you muscle up, you're not as fast, you're not as smooth, and you're not as direct towards making contact, and it just leads towards a frustrating time. So this topic is a big, beware with caution when you're practicing velocity, because it's not so much that, it's under managing velocity. And it even taps into that a little bit too, in regards for paying attention and making adjustments with bad swings. It's big, and it's something that when you're watching this, I'm hoping you're just putting a couple things into consideration before you start getting into a couple of things that may not necessarily be making you better. So that's all that I have right there. If you have any questions, you know how to reach out to me. Have a good one.